All right. Hi, folks. Steven here. Should be live there. Yes, looks like we are. And this is going to be a discussion of the yesterday's Pokemon Go Community featuring Rhyhorn. Um, so that all went there. We're also going to be talking about a little bit about the channel and a little bit about some stuff going on in the Pokecasters network. Obviously, this week is going to be big with Pokemon Day on Thursday, the 27th. We've got the release of Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. Very interesting what they're doing musically with that because I really don't know a ton about it. We'll see how that one goes out. But we're going to start by talking about the Pokemon Go Community Day that was this weekend. And as usual, if you do have any questions, go ahead, type those into the chat. We always appreciate that. And also, if you have any thoughts on Pokemon Go Community or any questions for the station, feel free to type those in. In the meantime, we are going to go straight into the presentation. So let's see, we go to an application window, PowerPoint slideshow. Yep, as usual, I have a nice little slideshow here. Hopefully these end up being more exciting than some of your family slideshows. Okay, anyway. So, all right. As you know, I always love talking about, for some reason, I insist on making the first thing I talk about on these the weather. It is an outdoor event. Unlike last month, you may remember I went to one of the local malls, which ended up, I think, not being such a great location just because of the limited number of stops and like one gym I had access to out by Westtown Mall here in Madison. But as far as the weather, I did look up, let's see, Sunday, January 19th. Was the last community day. That was, let's see, a high of 21 degrees, which was a little below the normal of 26. A low of 0 Fahrenheit, by the way. Normal is 11 degrees. And I saw the average wind speed was 8.5. So yeah, I think when I actually did this last time, it was the same day, so I didn't have the stats here. But you can tell, not insanely cold. I mean, we had some colder weather last week in NMA Milwaukee, but definitely a bit below average. By comparison, today here in Madison, we had, or as I say, yesterday in Madison, this time around, had a high of 40, which is above the normal of right around freezing, 33 degrees, and a low of 23, which is about equally above the normal low of about 17 degrees. And the winds were, a little bit lighter this time around. Obviously, things will be getting warmer as we move into future months and stuff like that. All this data, of course, is courtesy the National Weather Service. So one of the benefits of it not being quite as bitterly cold, almost 20 degrees warmer, or about 20 degrees warmer, I suppose, than last month, is I did get to go outside, although I did I guess, bulk up a little bit. I had, flannel line jeans and stuff like that. But last month's experience made me want to, rather than going here on the west side of Madison, I wanted to show a little bit more of the city. And I think I'm going to try and do that for at least the next couple months. If any of you are knowledgeable enough about Madison that you have specific areas, eventually I'll get to like the State Street Capitol area and some of the other stuff. But for today, I went over to one side of the UW campus. And first of all, I took the bus to get there. And actually, the community day started while I was on the bus. It's kind of funny. So yeah, I managed to use the I'm a passenger thing. And I actually managed to catch a couple fairly decent Rhyhorn on this trip here. So that was a nice thing to do there. But as far as where I was actually trying to get to, as you may have seen, the location listed. That's kind of a fun thing you can do on YouTube, is that you can list the location for this. I was in the general vicinity of, I guess, Madison's, well, maybe most famous, but if not, then its second most famous landmark, perhaps, the Camp Randall Stadium area of campus. This is, if you look on a map, towards the southwest side of the University of Wisconsin campus. You can see I took a couple AR photos there. On the left is the old field house. The center one is the main gate into the stadium. And then over on the right-hand side is a little archway. Now, you may be wondering, Camp Randall. So was this used to be a campground? Well, probably not the kind you're thinking of. Apparently, I did some research that this was used as a sort of a staging area for training troops during the U.S. Civil War back in the 1800s, and hence the name Camp Randall. I don't remember who exactly Randall is named after, because it's also a very common street name in cities in Wisconsin and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I did not do that little bit of research. But obviously, the stadium was built later. The archway is on the right is probably the oldest part there. But basically, it's this complex that has obviously the football stadium where the Wisconsin Badgers play their home games. It also has a couple other things. Now, there's a separate sports arena called the Kohl Center where the basketball and hockey teams play their home games. And I think it's in a different part of campus. Maybe some other time I will head down there. Like I said, any questions about Madison, you can certainly toss those in here because we'll be seeing a decent, not a huge chunk of it. This is I suppose, a relatively small portion despite being a very large sports venue. But in this area, as you might expect, being on campus and stuff like that, there's a ton of Pokestops, ton of gyms and stuff like that. And I had a lot more opportunities than I've had in some other parts of town. Certainly last month when I went to the mall. But yeah, so that gives you a rough idea there of the general vicinity. Let's see. All right, so one thing I did a lot of yesterday during the 3-hour time period is I fought a lot of Team Rocket grunts. There were a couple I passed up because I had not very good team members to take care of those with. Notably, I'm still not very good on the flying. Obviously, hopefully this Rhyhorn will help somewhat, just in the fact that it is part rock. So now if you take a look at the photos we have here, these are some screenshots of, I think, the first Team Rocket grunt I took down. You may notice on the bottom right, I still have a task or whatever you want to call it left over from Valentine's Day weekend last weekend, where I talked about where it says you have to defeat some Team Rocket grunts. Unfortunately, I didn't get a good opportunity to do that at Anime Milwaukee. I did spin a few things and catch a few things, but I was kind of busy there and also trying to kind of conserve some of the, there's some sirens going off around here from some vehicles or whatever, but hopefully that doesn't interrupt things too much. Let's see. But yeah, I did have an objective for that. This one, as you can kind of tell, worked out pretty well. So back when we had the Chimchar one, which I guess was in November, we had a very early snow for that one, I think it was, and commented how fire Pokemon looked really good on snow. Rhyhorn, kind of the camouflage is in. You know, it's almost in color. Now, I did point out earlier that we did hit 40 degrees yesterday or so was the high temperature. But all the same, we have a lot of snow built up. There are a few places where it has melted off and you can see the ground, but we've gotten a bit more snow than average this February. So still plenty of it on the ground despite the temperatures. Obviously, a lot of stuff on buildings and roofs was melting off and dripping off, but still a ton there. This is in a park. I think it's called Alumni Park or whatever, right next to the next to Camp Randall Stadium. And that's gives you an idea there of what you can kind of expect in Wisconsin in the winter. Next. So I kept walking around this kind of area, this kind of quadrant of the campus, and I eventually did encounter a shiny near some of the engineering school buildings at the UW campus. As you can see, I got this one here. This is one of two shinies that I caught during yesterday's event. This is the better stat-wise, not just in terms of CP, but in terms of overall stats. As you can see from this event, I was able to build up quite a bit of Rhyhorn candy on this. I do kind of like the rusty orange color that they used for the shiny Rhyhorn. And I think that all works out pretty well there picture-wise. Not too much to say about this. I do think Rhyhorn has a little lower of a catch rate than some of the other Pokemon they've used. It seems like I used more Pokeballs on some of these than in some of the other community days. And remember, this one was voted on by fans, so it was kind of the one they chose. Let's see. So this was a Pokestop, or actually a Pokemon gym that I came across on the UW campus. There were actually two of them relatively close together. If I was not so short on if I didn't have a lot of fainted Pokemon I needed revives for, which I didn't get a ton of, unfortunately, spinning Pokestops and whatnot. You notice that the Pokemon in this gym are getting kind of low there. I could certainly knock a few out if I had wanted to put in the stuff there, but unfortunately, that just kind of didn't work out. Sorry if that made a noise there. Let's see. All right, so more Team Rocket grunts. This is the second one. I still think this is obviously a normal type one. You can kind of tell on the right for the catch phase, but normal does not mean weak. They need to put that. I don't think I've seen a Pokemon Go official, at least, T-shirt that has that phrase on it. I think that would be really good, just like a general Pokemon shirt. Yep, and as you can see on the right, I had a chance, and I actually was successful capturing a Porygon that was literally on the wrong side of the tracks. Although I think those tracks aren't really used for anything these days, so we don't have any light rail systems or trains going through town these days in Madison, really. But you can kind of see where that one goes. Okay, and let's see. So it's getting kind of cold at this point. I mean, it was much warmer than last time in some of the other Pokemon Go community days, but still kind of cold out. So decided to drop by one of the Union South, the student union. There's several on the UW campus, given its size. First off, I managed to track down another shiny Rhyhorn there, and managed to catch that. Wasn't nearly as good stat-wise. And while I was there, I also picked up, let's see, a hot chocolate. I'm not much of a coffee or tea person, but I picked up a hot chocolate and then a macaroon, not a macaron. Those are the little small candies. This is definitely a macaroon. This is a coconut macaroon there. It was pretty good, pretty well made there from one of the vendors in there. While I was inside and warming up a little bit, managed to take care of a couple Team Rocket grunts, which was really nice. Let's see. Obviously, a rock one. I hate losing. Get out of my face. The script writing, some of it is it's all pretty corny, but some of it is definitely better than others. Defeated into the ground is a little bit awkward sounding. I don't know why they couldn't just say "you're grounded" or something like that, or something like that. For this, seems like it would have been fit more well. But obviously, each of these phrases gives you a hint as to what type of Pokemon the grunt is going to be using. And stuff like that. But I managed to, first of all, fill up that defeat 3 Team Rocket grunts, which was nice. And I also managed to take a fourth one. And why was all of that important? Well, I'd finally defeated enough Team Rocket grunts in this newer phase of the Team Rocket cycle. Yeah, to put together my rocket radar. So that's kind of a neat thing. I didn't really get too much of a chance to use it because I'm kind of there was actually like an admin or whatever, a Team Rocket admin. Excuse me again. Not too far from where I was that I could have fought, but like I said, my revived situation, the grunts aren't usually too bad as long as you have a good type matchup. I haven't tried the admins yet, but I assume they must be more difficult to get a hold on there. But look forward to doing that sometime in the future, I do hope. But that was kind of nice to finally get through enough grunts to get the rocket radar working. I look to see more of that in the future. It's also kind of neat on the right. They show you that zoom out. You usually can't zoom out more than a few blocks, more than 1 or 2 blocks on regular Pokemon Go. Here you can see quite a bit there. So that was a fair bit of fun, I would have to say. All right, so next up. These were a few non-community day, but new Pokemon to me as far as Pokemon Go is concerned. I have a ball toy. Surprisingly, I did not have a ball toy before this weekend. And then on the right-hand side, I have a Shellmet. That's right. It's got that. I'm not sure how this one specifically works because this is one of those. It's got that really weird Unova evolution where you have to treat it with Carol Blast, I think it is, and they sort of swap things and you get a weird combination on each side. Not sure how close they come with that, but they were both new Pokemon for me, so a little experience bonus for that. think the Shellman, I'm pretty sure, came from an egg that I hatched, which was nice. No like distance compression or whatever you want to call it. No hatch time reduction or distance reduction for this particular one there, which is kind of a shame. But still nice to keep filling out my Pokédex. All right. So at the end of the time, what I did is I tried to figure out. I usually try to get enough candy to evolve one shiny Pokemon and one non-shiny. I usually try to find the best stat-wise of each of those. This was of the two shinies. This was definitely the better one of the two that I had. Now it's got a max out attack, which is nice, and a nearly max HP. Defense not so great, but we'll see. Now, one thing I seem to have noticed is that when you evolve a Pokemon, the shiny, it seems to get less different as the evolution line moves on. And Rhydon is no exception. It's just a little bit of a yellow tint there compared to a straight gray that you usually get with the regular version there. So that's always a little disappointing. I kind of wish it kept something akin to the full color all the way there. But this was the shiny one I evolved. And here's the regular one. I guess it's more of a bluish gray. It's sort of it's not as dark as a cobalt blue, but it's a relatively grayish one there. But you can see that that one almost perfect. I know one perfect in HP, and then I guess attack and defense. Not so sure about those two. Those are 1 or 2 points off, which is really nice. And I evolved there. Now you notice there on the right-hand side with my Rhydon, I have a ton of candy left over because I had originally intended to go all the way to Rhyperior, but so I guess one of the issues with today's community day is, it's not just candy. This is you need a Sinnoh Stone to evolve, and I think I've only gotten like one of those ever. And I used it to evolve a Murkrow into a Honchkrow, I think it was, I believe. And you can't buy them in the in-game store. You just kind of have to, I think you have to like win raids or gain levels or something to get them. So even though I have a ton of candy left over, not going to have a Rhyperior anytime soon, kind of unfortunately. So sorry I wasn't able to fulfill that need. But otherwise, I really did enjoy this time. It was obviously nice being a little bit warmer than the last couple. And, even though I've been around that part of town a little bit, but being able to walk around, I actually went to UW-La Crosse, not UW-Madison for college. So in case you're wondering why I'm not as super familiar, but I've been to campus many times for various reasons over the years. And there's plenty more to campus to discover. I'll probably pick some other places on campus eventually, although I'll probably do something somewhere else in Madison for next month if we do another on-location thing. It's going to depend if it conflicts with my my league schedule or not. All right, but so no Rhyperior, kind of unfortunately, so I can't get the Rock Wrecker attack, which would be really good, obviously. But maybe sometime in the future if I'm lucky. Who knows? Like I said, any comments on this one, go ahead and toss those in. But we do have a few more things to go over. Now, one reason I picked this neighborhood is not too far from Camp Randall Stadium. If you go southwest on a sort of a diagonal road-ish thing, I forget the name of the exact street there. But if you follow it, you'll eventually run into a independent music store called Strictly Discs. So I've told you about Madtown Music Exchange, which is on the east side of town. They used to be closer to State Capitol. Now they've moved to a larger location. I usually go there for Record Store Day, which, I'm not holding out a super amount of hope we'll get a Pokemon thing for this year, but it'd be really nice if we did. But this is an independent music store on the west side of town. Like I said, not too far from Camp Randall Stadium. So if you head southwest from there a couple blocks, it was a little further than I remembered, but it was definitely still there. I was a little worried for a second. But this is an independent music store. And despite the name, they do actually sell primarily used cassettes. They do have new vinyl, used vinyl, new CDs, used CDs, and stuff like that. But that's right here. And you can see I took a little AR photo of Nidoran female in front of the door there. They're at 1900 and whatever this. Like I said, I forget the name of the street. Sorry. And they're actually a Pokemon gym, by the way, if you're playing Pokemon Go. So that's another incentive to visit there. Whenever I go to one of these stores, it's always like, what'll find me? And well, if you've seen some of our previous discussions and you know my taste in music, you won't be surprised that I got So yeah, in excess. Maybe I just have some. I mean, I like the band. I just maybe I have some predilection for purposely misspelled words. But I don't know. I picked up a couple vinyl records. On the left, you have the 12-inch mix of "What You Need." Has kind of a neat picture there. They took a bunch of pictures from the very famous music video, sort of launched in excess. Sort of the biggest part of their career was over the next couple albums. So it's got some pictures from that. Maybe the makeup is a little bit stark, but otherwise, it's got it very much, you can tell it's from the Listen Like Thieves era. On the right hand side, we have a song called "Burn for You," which is from the previous album, The Swing, and apparently they redid this one a little bit. I'll have to take a listen sometime. And that's a 45 RPM 7-inch record. Don't let the fact that these pictures are about the same size fool you. The one on the left is bigger than the one on the right. But so those were some nice pickups. Wasn't expecting to find anything Pokemon in there. I did check the Donna Summer section because I know the remixes for the Power of One did get a fairly decent printing. But so I picked it up. I'm not sure what the 116 on the "What You Need," and maybe that used to belong to a radio station or a disc jockey, like a club DJ or something back in the 80s, and they numbered them off somehow, or it was part of a large lot that was sold at some point. But would kind of love to know more about that stuff. But yeah, can definitely recommend the store. Like I said, whenever I go to a record store like that sells used stuff, it's always like, what'll find me? And this was the case there. Try to see if I could find any Weird Al stuff. Didn't see anything in there that looked too interesting. I'm always on the lookout for like 12-inch singles and stuff like that. Okay, got a few other pieces of business here. So first off, you might want to treat this as a little bit tentative, but the Pokecasters Network is doing their next public network meeting on Thursday, March 12th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It's a little bit later than last time, about half an hour. And it's the Pokecasters Network Discord is where they'll be set up. They've been trying to do various things. If you saw a couple weeks ago, I managed to slide in some raid night stuff. We do that a couple times a month. Tried doing some Pictionary yesterday. It didn't work out quite as well, at least in terms of audience, as they would have liked. And other stuff like that. So there's about, I forget this one, 8 or 10 shows in the network, including the Pokepress Digest podcast. And looks like we got Legend Plays in the chat room. Thank you very much for dropping by. If you have any questions, let me know. But our next network meeting is going to be then. And then let's see. Remember, I mentioned that Anime Milwaukee was last weekend. And we've got a few things up, and there's a little more left to come. First off, on Friday, I got up an article that is with the second place finisher in the Smash Ultimate tournament. If you're wondering why I didn't interview the winner, it was the same guy as last year. And all due credit to him as a player, I try to spread things around and not interview the same people over and over. So this was a different guy who came in second, and he played a lot using a couple different characters, but one of the new DLC characters, Banjo-Kazooie, is one that he used. And of course, that kind of got me to, want to talk about that one with him. And we do a little interview, but that's on the Pokepress blog, pokepress.blogspot.com. And then just this morning, I uploaded. Yeah, so I mentioned this during my recap that I did an interview with a cosplayer who had a very nice, Pachirisu costume in there. Is that very well done. And that one went up this morning, got some nice close-up photos of some of the parts of the costume there. So take a look at that after this stream ends, I suppose. And that's what's going on there. Now, I do have one more thing from Anime Milwaukee that I hope to get up by the end of this week or next weekend at the latest. And that, of course, is the Erica Lindbeck press session that I went to. It wasn't a particularly long interview, so don't expect too much. But that should be going up on the channel in the next week or so, and also should be in the next digest episode of the podcast. So a couple different Anime Milwaukee things for you to look forward to. Like I said, take a look at that cosplay interview if you haven't. Interesting. And some comments in the chat. That's always appreciated. Let's see. So there's that, and then that's the end of the slideshow. So just to update on a few other things before I start wrapping this up. Let's see. Let me go ahead and There we go. All right. Yeah, it takes a second for it to get back here. So just to update what else is going on the channel. We haven't decided. I haven't decided with Anne when the Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution music discussion will be. It'll probably not be next weekend. It might be the first full weekend in March. Might be when that is, but keep an eye out for that. She is actually in the process. She's trying to work her way through. If you've seen the podcast feed versus our live streams, you know that she is a couple um, months back on all of that. And we are trying to get all of that together. And she's trying to just plow through all that, get all that up on her Patreon, as well as a new episode of her podcast out, and hopefully get back up on that. She apparently has some free time this weekend. I wished her the best of luck. It's tough to maintain all that. But aside from that, obviously, later this week, we'll have some news to deal with, the Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution, and also whatever comes out of Pokemon Day. See what happens with all of that. Otherwise, folks, let's see. Looks like I don't have too much else to. Let me just check. Let's see. We got HiXFF, and let's see. Just got to take care of a few quick things here. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you again soon for something. All right, folks, thanks.